Around what time you bury this thing?
They dig and make they talk.
It's a recent now. Look at the recent.
On the night of June 11, 2018, a woman walked out of a hotel in Kogi State, got on a motorcycle with two men she had just met, and was never seen alive again. Her name was Mercy Moses, and the man behind her disappearance was someone the entire community called Man of God. But before we get to the pastor, let us talk about Mercy first, because Mercy Moses was a real person. She had a life, she had a story. She came from Benue State, a woman far from home, trying to survive in a place where nobody knew her name. She had no family close by in Kogi State, nobody who would immediately notice if she did not come home. She was working at Hollywood Hotel in Ozuri, in the Adawi local government area of Kogi State. Hollywood Hotel was a well-known spot in that community. People came and went from that place at all hours. The manager of the hotel, a man known simply as Mohammed, ran the place and kept things moving. Mercy was one of the women who stayed there. It was not the life most people dream of, but it was her life, and she was living it the best way she could. She deserved safety. She deserved to come home at the end of every night. On June 11, 2018, that right was taken from her in the most horrifying way possible. That evening, two men arrived at Hollywood Hotel at around 10 p.m. Their names were Samuel Oluwasegun and Abdulmumini Yakubu. Both of them were from the same Adawi local government area. They walked in looking calm and relaxed, the way regular visitors always do. They exchanged pleasantries with Mohammed, the hotel manager. They smiled, they chatted. Nothing about them raised any alarm. To everyone watching, they looked like two ordinary men who had come to the hotel for the usual reasons. Nobody stared, nobody asked questions. This is what made them dangerous. They had planned every part of this visit carefully. After spending a few minutes talking with Mohammed, the two men turned their attention to Mercy Moses. They approached her and began a conversation. We do not know exactly what they said to her. Perhaps they offered her money. Perhaps they told her she simply needed company. Whatever words they used, Mercy agreed to leave with them. Witnesses at the hotel saw her walk out with the two men. They watched as all three of them climbed onto a motorcycle together and rode away into the dark Kogi night. Nobody stopped them. Nobody thought twice about it. It was a normal-looking moment in a place where people came and went every night. That was the last time anyone at Hollywood Hotel ever saw Mercy Moses alive. One day passed, then two. Mercy did not come back. Now this was not normal. The women who stayed at Hollywood Hotel did not just disappear for days without telling anyone. They lived at the hotel. It was their base. If someone was going to be away, people would know. But Mercy had simply vanished. No call, no message, no sign of where she was or what happened to her. The other residents noticed. The manager noticed. Mohammed began to worry. He thought about the two men who had taken her away on that motorcycle. He thought about how she had not returned. Something did not feel right deep in his gut. Mohammed made a decision that would eventually break this entire case open. He went to the nearest police station in Adawi and filed a missing person report. He told the officers what he knew, that Mercy Moses had left his hotel with two men on the night of June 11 and had not returned. The officers at the Adawi station recognized that this was not a simple case. Within a short time, the matter was transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department in Lokoja, the Kogi state capital. Homicide detectives were now involved, and these were not ordinary officers. These were experienced investigators who had handled serious crimes before. The detectives immediately began working the case. They retraced Mercy's last known movements, they spoke to people at the hotel, they gathered descriptions of the two men who had taken her away. Through careful detective work and community information, the trail led them to two names, Samuel Oluwasegun and Abdulmumini Yakubu. The police located them and brought them in for questioning. Both men sat in front of the detectives and denied everything. They claimed they knew nothing about Mercy Moses. They said they had no idea where she was or what happened to her. They looked the investigators in the eye and lied. But experienced detectives are not easily fooled. The officers applied pressure. They asked harder questions. They poked holes in their stories. They kept going hour after hour until the walls Samuel and Yakubu had built around their secret began to crack. And when those walls finally came down, What came out was so dark, so disturbing, so deeply evil that it shocked everyone in that interrogation room. The two men did not act alone. They had been sent by someone who had given them a job to do, a specific target to find, and a specific payment to collect when it was done. That someone was a pastor.
His name was Segun Otaru, and on Sunday mornings, he stood before his congregation and preached about God. He led the Voice of Canaan Temple, a cherubim and seraphim Aladura church located in Ozuri in the Adavi local government area of Kogi State. He had about 20 members who came every week to sit under his teaching. They trusted him. They prayed with him. They called him their shepherd. In their eyes, he was a man connected to God, someone who they could bring their problems to, someone who would intercede for them. Pastor Segun Otaru played that role well. He wore the robes, he spoke the prayers, he accepted their worship. But behind every sermon he preached, behind every prayer he lifted to heaven, he was carrying a secret so dark it is difficult to put into words. Segun Otaru was obsessed with money, not in the way most people want financial comfort or security. His desire was deeper and more desperate than that. He wanted to be rich quickly. He wanted wealth that normal hard work could not bring. And he had convinced himself that he knew how to get it. Many years before the events of June 2018, Otaru had traveled to Abeokuta in Ogun State, where he claimed he learned the art of money-making rituals from a master. This person, whoever they were, taught Otaru specific methods that promised riches through dark spiritual means. Otaru came back from Abeokuta carrying this knowledge, and he held on to it, waiting for the right time to put it to use. Before the events involving Mercy Moses, Otaru had tried twice before to perform the ritual that he believed would make him wealthy. The first two times, he did not use a living person. He went to cemeteries at night when the world was quiet and no one was watching. He dug up recently buried bodies. He removed the specific body parts that his ritual required. He carried those parts back and used them in his ceremonies. He waited for the wealth to come. Nothing happened. No money appeared. No miracle arrived. The ritual failed both times. Otaru was confused and frustrated. He had done exactly what he was taught. Why wasn't it working? Then he reached a conclusion that crossed every line of decency and humanity that exists. He decided that the reason his rituals were failing was because he was using body parts from people who were already dead. He believed the ritual only worked with parts taken from a living person, and so the pastor who stood before 20 trusting church members every Sunday quietly made the most evil decision of his life. He would find a living person, he would have that person taken, and he would use their body for his ritual to get rich. This is where Samuel Oluwasegun and Abdulmumini Yakubu came in. Otaru contacted them. He made them an offer, bring him a woman, any woman, and he would pay them 700,000 naira when the job was done. He even told them to open a bank account so he could transfer the money after everything was completed. 700,000 naira. That was the price Otaru had placed on a human life. Samuel and Yakubu agreed to the deal. They knew where to find a vulnerable woman. They knew where to find someone who might not be immediately missed. They chose Hollywood Hotel. They chose Mercy Moses. Pause. I need to stop here for a second. Before I continue this story, I want to ask you something. Think about the 20 people who sat in Pastor Segun Otaru's church every Sunday. They prayed with this man. They called him their shepherd. They had absolutely no idea what he was doing in secret. Here's your challenge. Drop a comment below with just one word that describes how you feel about that. One word. Go. And while you're down there, if you have not subscribed to Trem Crime Zone yet, please do it now. Every week we bring you real stories like this one, deeply researched, honestly told, and covering Nigerian crime cases that most channels are too afraid to touch. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a single episode. Your support is what keeps this channel going. Now, back to the story. After Samuel and Yakubu collected Mercy from Hollywood Hotel that night, they took her away from the area on a motorcycle. They brought her to a location where no one would see or hear what was about to happen. What took place at that location is deeply disturbing, and we will handle it with care out of respect for Mercy. The men did not treat Mercy with any dignity or humanity. They had brought her there for one purpose, to deliver her to the pastor and collect their payment. But before that happened, both men committed serious crimes against her. When Mercy could no longer resist or escape, she was strangled to death. Mercy Moses, a woman from Benue State who had come to Kogi trying to build a better life, lost her life that night in the darkness, far from her family, far from anyone who loved her, in a place where no one could help her. The crime did not stop there. What happened next crossed into territory that is almost impossible to understand or explain. After Mercy was gone, members of the group committed further acts of desecration against her remains. Their stated reason, as they later confessed, was a twisted belief that it would protect them from spiritual consequences for what they had done. Then, they proceeded to do what Pastor Otaru had hired them to do. They dismembered Mercy's remains. They removed specific body parts. Some of those parts were taken to the Voice of Canaan temple and buried right there on the church premises, hidden inside the building where people came every Sunday to worship. A woman was buried in pieces in the ground like she never mattered. But she did matter, and the truth was coming.
The detectives at the Kogi State Criminal Investigation Department had broken through Samuel and Yakubu's denials. The two men confessed, and their confessions pointed directly at one man, Pastor Segun Otaru of the Voice of Canaan Temple. The moment word got back to Otaru that his hired hands had been arrested, he understood what was coming. He did not wait for the police to knock on his door. He packed up and disappeared from Ozuri. He left his church, left his community, and went on the run. He believed that if he could put enough distance between himself and the crime, he might escape what was coming. He was wrong. The homicide detectives were not about to let the main suspect disappear. They used every tool available to them. They gathered intelligence from the community, they tracked his movements, they followed leads from people who had seen him or knew where he might go. Slowly and carefully, they closed in. On June 19, 2018, just 8 days after Mercy Moses left Hollywood Hotel for the last time, the police caught up with Pastor Segun Otaru and placed him under arrest. The man who orchestrated the entire plan was now in handcuffs. When investigators confronted Otaru with everything his accomplices had told them, he eventually confessed. He admitted to being behind the plan. He admitted to hiring Samuel and Yakubu to bring him a woman for ritual purposes. He confirmed that he had promised them 700,000 naira. He told the police that he had hoped to generate 2.5 million naira from the ritual process, that this was not an act of desperation born in one moment, but a calculated plan he had been building toward for a long time. He told them about the 2 failed attempts before this, the cemetery visits, the body parts from the dead, the rituals that produced nothing. He told them how he had concluded that only fresh material from a living person would make the ritual work. He said poverty was what drove him. He wanted money. He believed this was how to get it. The police then did something important. They asked the suspects to lead them to where they had buried Mercy's remains. Samuel and Yakubu cooperated. They took the investigators to Uhodo, in the Ogamina area of Adavi local government area. Officers arrived at the site and began digging. What they found was heartbreaking. The remains of Mercy Moses were there in the ground exactly as the men had described. Officers recovered her remains piece by piece, her head, her legs, her torso, her hand. Every recovered piece was handled carefully and taken to Okene General Hospital mortuary for an official autopsy. Before I continue, I want you to do something. Take out your phone right now. Go to the comment section. Write down "Justice for Mercy." That is all. Just those 3 words. It takes 5 seconds and it tells Mercy's story that people still remember her. People still care. Also, are you watching this on YouTube? Hit that like button right now. It helps this video reach more people, and more people need to hear this story. True Crime Zone exists to make sure stories like Mercy's are not forgotten. Share this video with one person today. The police also confirmed that some of Mercy's remains had been buried inside the church premises itself, right there in the Voice of Canaan temple, hidden in a pot within the building where people came to pray. The church that was supposed to be a house of worship had been turned into a burial site for a woman's remains. The congregation of 20 people who trusted Otaru had been praying in a building that contained this dark secret. A 4th suspect, Mike Stephen, who had also been involved in the crime, had managed to escape before the arrests. The police confirmed he was at large and a search was ongoing for him.
On June 25, 2018, the Kogi State Police Command paraded Pastor Segun Otaru, Samuel Oluwasegun, and Abdulmumini Yakubu before the public and the press. They stood before cameras, their faces before the world, charged with murder and conspiracy. The community that had known Otaru as a pastor now saw him for what he truly was. The police public relations officer for the Kogi State Command, ASP William Aya, confirmed all the details of the case to journalists. He confirmed the arrests, the confessions, the recovery of remains, and the charges that would follow. The suspects were remanded in prison custody, awaiting trial. As of the time of this report, there have been no updates on a final conviction in this case, which itself is something we as a community need to talk about, because justice delayed is justice denied.
Mercy Moses was a woman from Benue State with a simple goal: to survive, to make ends meet in a place far from home. She still had her whole life ahead of her, the chance to change direction, to find new opportunities, to one day tell the story of how she came through hard times and made it. But that future was taken from her, not by accident, not by illness, not by any force of nature, but by the deliberate, calculated, evil decision of a man who saw her life as a resource to be used and discarded. Her family back in Benue State likely did not even know what had happened to their daughter until after the police investigation was already underway. She was a young thief woman who had left home seeking better things without telling her family exactly where she was going. That detail alone should make us pause. How many Nigerians are out there right now, in cities, in states far from home, living in conditions where if something happened to them, nobody would know for days? How many people are that exposed? This case is not just about a crime. It is about a system of vulnerability that puts certain people at serious risk. People who are far from family, people who have no safety net, people whose absence might not be noticed or reported until too late. Mercy Moses fell into that category, and the people who harmed her knew it. They specifically chose someone they believed would not be immediately missed. That is cold and deliberate. Now, let us talk about Pastor Segun Otaru, because this is where many people in Nigeria and across Africa struggle to make sense of things. How does a man stand behind an altar on Sunday morning, lead prayers, collect tithes, counsel struggling families, and then on the other days of the week be planning something like this? How do those two realities exist in the same person? The answer is not comfortable, but it is important. Otaru was never who he appeared to be. The church was not his calling, it was his cover. The spiritual authority he claimed was a costume he wore to earn trust from people who had none to spare. His congregation of 20 people gave him their belief, their loyalty, and in some cases their money, and he used the position their trust created to operate in the shadows without suspicion. That is a form of abuse of power that goes beyond just this crime. It is a warning about what happens when spiritual titles become shields. There is also the matter of the belief system that drove Otaru's actions. He genuinely convinced himself that performing a ritual using the body parts of a living person would generate wealth for him. He had tried twice before with remains from cemeteries. When that did not work, he escalated to an unthinkable level. This is the destructive reality of harmful ritual belief when it is taken to its extreme. It doesn't just lead people astray spiritually, it leads them to treat other human beings as objects, as ingredients, as things to be used and thrown away. We should be clear about this. No ritual, no spiritual practice, no belief system justifies taking another person's life. There is no amount of money in the world worth what was done to Mercy Moses. And the idea that harming others can bring prosperity is not just morally wrong. The story of Segun Otaru proves it practically wrong too. His first two attempts failed. His third attempt landed him in prison. The pursuit of easy wealth through the suffering of others destroyed his own life, ended Mercy's life, and wrecked the lives of every person who trusted him. Samuel Oluwasegun and Abdulmumini Yakubu also deserve mention here. These were not men who stumbled into a crime by accident. They made a choice. Someone offered them money to bring a woman to a dangerous situation, and they said yes. The promise of 700,000 naira was enough for them to treat Mercy Moses as a product to be delivered. That moral failure, the willingness to harm someone else for personal gain, is something we see in crime stories again and again. Greed does not always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like two ordinary men walking casually into a hotel and smiling at the manager. What about Mohammed, the hotel manager? His role in this story is actually one of the more hopeful parts. When Mercy did not return, he noticed. When the days passed without any sign of her, he took action. He went to the police. He filed a report. He didn't shrug and say it was not his business. Because of that decision, the investigation began. Because of that report, the detectives got involved. Because Mohammed paid attention and spoke up, the men responsible for what happened to Mercy Moses were caught. That matters. It shows us that in communities where vulnerable people live, the people around them have a role to play. Paying attention, raising alarm, speaking up when something feels wrong. Mohammed could have assumed Mercy had simply moved on. He could have stayed silent to avoid involvement. He chose differently, and that choice led to justice being pursued. We should also speak about the broader safety issue that surfaces across many Nigerian crime stories. Whether it's a core member who trusted an instructor or a woman like Mercy Moses who was far from her family support system, the pattern is the same. Distance from community, limited access to people who care about your safety, and vulnerability to those who see that distance as an opportunity. Nigeria needs stronger community safety structures for people who move away from home. Families need honest conversations about staying connected with loved ones who relocate. Communities need to watch out for one another. As for the legal outcome, all three arrested suspects were charged with murder and conspiracy. They were remanded in custody and their cases were sent to court. The fourth suspect, Mike Stephen, was still being sought up at the time of these reports. As of now, no final conviction update has been publicly confirmed, which remains a deep frustration. Justice should not take forever in cases like this. Mercy Moses deserves a verdict. Her family deserves closure. Nigeria deserves to see that its courts treat the lives of vulnerable people with the same seriousness they would treat any other. Mercy Moses was a woman from Benue State. She had dreams, even if the world she lived in made those dreams hard to reach. She deserved the chance to keep trying. That chance was stolen by people who valued money over her life. We owe it to her to remember her name, to tell her story honestly, and to demand that the people who ended her journey face the full consequences of their actions. Her name was Mercy Moses, and she mattered.
That is the story of Mercy Moses and Pastor Segun Otaro of the Voice of Canaan Temple in Kogi State. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think should happen to people who carry out crimes in the name of rituals? Do you think the justice system in Nigeria handles these cases quickly enough? And what do we need to do differently as communities to protect vulnerable people, especially those who are far from home? Tell us what you think. Your opinion matters here on Trem Crime Zone. If this story moved you, please share it with someone today. Not for views. Share it because Mercy's story deserves to be heard. Share it because awareness is the first step toward change. And if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, please do it right now. At Trem Crime Zone, we do not just tell crime stories. We tell the stories behind the stories. The real people, the real pain, the real lessons. Every single week. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we will see you in the next one. Rest well, Mercy Moses.